You know, the Saturday Night Live we see in 2023 owes a lot to what I consider the mid-'80s revival of the show. Now, today, we're going to be talking about one of the most interesting seasons of Saturday Night Live, and I think it's very underrated. In my opinion, it's a top 5 cast of all time for the show. Now, season 12 originally aired in the United States between October 6, 1984 and April 13, 1985. Now, only 17 episodes were produced due to a writer's strike and budget constraints. Now, the season also featured a new opening sequence produced by Charlex, who also created the Cars You Might Think video earlier in 84, depicting the SNL cast as giants in and around New York City landmarks. At the end of the season, Dick Ebersol requests to completely revamp the show to include mostly pre-recorded segments. Now, Martin Short, Christopher Guest, and Rich Hall ultimately got tired of the show's demanding production schedule and showed little interest in returning for another season, leaving the great Billy Crystal the only A-cast member available for season 11. Like Lorne Michaels at the end of season 5, Ebersol made taking the show off the air for several months to rebuild the condition of return. Another idea was to institute a permanent rotation of hosts, including Billy Crystal, David Letterman, and former cast member Joe Piscopo, for a hip The Ed Sullivan Show. After briefly canceling the show, NBC decided to continue production only if he could get Michaels to produce again. Ebersol, along with his writing staff and most of the cast, left the show after this season. Those who wished to stay, such as Crystal, were not rehired for the following season. Now, between Guest and Harry Shearer and Short and Crystal, this was some amazing skits and some amazing guests. We'll get that into this in a few seconds. Now, during the previous season, Eddie Murphy left the show mid-season. Because of Murphy's departure, Joe Piscopo also left the show because he did not want to do it without Eddie Murphy. Now, Dick Ebersol fired Robert Duke, Brad Hall, and Tim Kazurinsky. Ebersol then wanted to blow up the show by adding seasoned comedians instead of newcomers. He hired Billy Crystal, who hosted twice in season 9, who was originally set to appear in SNL's first episode, Christopher Guest, a frequent contributor to the National Lampoon Radio Hour in the early 1970s, Rich Hall, best known for his work on Not Necessarily the News, and the early 1980s ABC sketch show Fridays, Harry Shearer, who was a cast member on Saturday Night Live in season 5, Martin Short, of course, from SCTV, and New Zealander Pamela Stevenson from the Not the 9 O'Clock News were hired. Guest became the anchor of the Saturday Night News, and all the cast members left the show at the end of the season. According to IMDb, future cast member Jan Hooks, SCTV cast member Andrea Martin, and actress Kathy Najimy auditioned for a spot in the season as Duke's replacement, but all three lost to Stevenson. Yeah, right. Hooks then auditioned the following season, only to lose to Joan Cusack, and later joined the show in season 12 when Lorne Michaels was forced to revamp his show after NBC threatened to cancel it. In the middle of the season, Harry Shearer left the show due to creative differences, which are talked about in the many Saturday Night Live books. Shearer told the AP, "I was creative and they were different." Despite his departure, his image is still shown in the opening credits, spray painting an elevated train as it goes down the track. Now, repertory players included Jim Belushi, John Belushi's brother, Billy Crystal, Mary Gross, very underrated actress, great Christopher Guest, Rich Hall, Gary Kroger, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, of course, of Seinfeld fame, Harry Shearer, who left again due to the creative differences on January 12, 1985, Martin Short, and of course Pamela Stevenson. Now, Billy Crystal, Larry David, Christopher Guest, Rich Hall, Rob Riley, and Martin Short joined the writing staff. Jim Downey, Herb Sargent, and Harry Shearer rejoined the staff after a 4-year hiatus. Robert Duke, Adam Green, Tim Kazurinsky, Michael McCartney, Eddie Murphy, Pamela Norris, and Joe Piscopo left the staff. Now, this season's writers were Jim Belushi, Andy Breckman, Billy Crystal, Larry David, Jim Downey, Christopher Guest, Rich Hall, Nate Herman, Kevin Kelton, Annie Kurtzman, Margaret Overman, Rob Riley, Herb Sargent, Martin Short, Harry Shearer, Andrew Smith, Bob Tischler, and Elliot Wald. The head writer was Bob Tischler. Now, the episodes this year were quite interesting, and look at this here. There was no host for the opening episode of the season, but musical guests were tremendous that year. Thompson Twins, Peter Wolf, Andrea Crouch and Wintley Phipps, Shaka Khan, the Folksman, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the Kinks, Billy Squire, Herbie Hancock, the Honey Drippers, John Waite, Billy Ocean, Tina Turner, Bryan Adams, Power Station, The Commodores, Santana, Greg Kihn. And hosts on the campaign, Bob Uecker, Jesse Jackson, Michael McKean, George Carlin, Ed Asner, and of course the Michael McKean hosting was a preview of him joining at the end of season 19. Now, George Carlin, Ed Asner, Ed Begley Jr., regular star, very important, Eddie Murphy, Kathleen Turner, Roy Scheider, Alex Karras, Harry Anderson, Pamela Sue Martin, Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, Christopher Reeve, and Howard Cosell. All quite interesting. Now, there was 2 specials held, including the SNL Film Festival, hosted by Billy Crystal, and of course the Best of John Belushi in August of '85. Now, various characters were featured on the show. Of course, the most memorable is, Jackie Rogers Jr.'s Fernando's Hideaway. Some tremendous performances and performers on the show. And the problem is, for what it was, the 17 or 18 episodes, probably again one of the most consistent Saturday Night Live seasons ever, and very cerebral. Not as much as you would think, but probably a lot more than was given credit for. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our latest entertainment screenshots podcast on Saturday Night Live. If you like what you're doing here, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Thanks for listening. Bye.